and to smile. That's all I need to do. You know? It was. I think the pitch. We just talked through the project. You know, this infamous PowerPoint that I had. We talked through that a little bit. Where I see the team going, what we're trying to build here, trying to build a culture, you know, of a collective culture here where we're fighting for one another, and everybody kind of has a piece in the game. So we talked through that. We talked through the style of play that Paulo wants to implement. You know, Paulo spoke to him and talked to him through that. So you know, Ted Siegel was part of the process as well. He spoke to him. Asher Mendelson, our technical director, spoke to him. So I think he felt the biggest thing, and when I spoke to him in Madrid last week, is he just said, listen, every person I've spoken to is kind of saying the same thing, and you guys seem very aligned, and that's you know, a project that he wanted to be a part of. So part of it's selling to him, but also part of it is, I think, for him is it's personal relationships. That's his business, and I got a really good opportunity to get to know him last week, and I think he was really excited about joining us and seeing where we can take this.
And then a lot of MLS clubs as of late have been really emphasizing signing young talent. And obviously Hector is kind of on the other end of the spectrum. He has all this experience. He's 31, but you know, what can a player who has the experience he has add to your club?
Well, exactly that, the experience and the level that he's played at. I mean, I think arguably he's the you know, the greatest Mexican in Europe in terms of his the amount of games. He's certainly played the most amount of Champions League games, trophies he's won at Madrid and also at Porto. So pretty confident. Maybe Hugo Sanchez is up there. Some people there might argue he might be the one that's ahead of him. But in terms of his pedigree, it's second to none. And we're excited to get that type of player in this club. We haven't had that level of a player in the history of this club since 2006. So we're excited to bring that sort of player here. I think our locker room, the players are excited about the opportunity to get a chance to play and train with a player of this caliber. So in terms of what he brings, is he's going to bring a lot of quality. And then the one part that we haven't talked a lot about, there's a reason he was captain of Porto. The reason you know, Atletico went after him is because he's a leader. He's a born leader. When you watch him play, it's the little things you see off the ball that he does so well. You know, the guy makes a tackle off the ball, and he's one of the first guys there to give him a high five. You see that with Mexico all the time. Whenever there's a chance for him to back up a teammate in a scrum, you know, he's the first guy there. Well, you know, whether you love it or hate it, it's especially when he's playing against the U.S., I think you notice that a lot. But he's always there defending his teammates, and he's a fantastic teammate. He'll be a fantastic leader for our group.
Next, we'll go with Tom. Tom, go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Pat. Nice to speak to you. Congrats on getting the signing over the line. You know, I guess just in a broad sense, when did Hector kind of be identified as a realistic target? And then furthermore, when did it kind of come back to you guys that this was a realistic fit, that there might be a chance that you guys could get this deal done?
Yeah, I mean, there were some feelers out. What is it now? We're into March, so a couple of months ago, there were some feelers out. You know, they actually approached us saying, "Would you be interested?" Then we obviously went through MLS and to make sure people were, whether it was discovered or not. So I had to make sure we were doing that before we went forward. But so it's been going for a while now. I think in the discussions, certainly once you dig in deep, that's probably only been pretty recent. So we're excited about how the process took place, and I think for us it was more about just feeling each other out and seeing how he could help us and why he actually felt excited about Houston, and vice versa. I think for him, is he the right fit for us was just as important as him thinking that this is the right city for him.
Up next, we'll go with Felipe. Felipe, go ahead.
Hi, Pat. Felipe Cardenas with The Athletic. How are you? Pleasure.
Good. Nice to meet you, Felipe.
Likewise.
We talked before, actually, but yeah.
We have. It's been a while, though. Yeah. So Hector will be just the third Mexican player that'll sign for the Houston Dynamo, which, if you consider the community in Houston and the relationship with that nation, it's pretty unbelievable. Do you plan to change that and make the Mexican players a focal point of this project moving forward?
I mean, I plan to try to make our team better. That's first and foremost. So wherever the player comes from is relatively irrelevant. But what I would say is I don't think, as you said, this is the third Mexican player. It's literally the neighbor to the south of us. It's a 5-hour drive, and you can be in Monterrey. So clearly, there's been a miss in terms of the type of players. But I would also say, in all fairness, we were not really a league, 15 years ago when Houston Dynamo actually came to existence. We were not a league that could compete with those type of players and salaries and that level. But now the league, especially in the last 5 years, has caught up to that league. We're still trying to prove it in CONCACAF. We still got a ways to go there, but I think financially, I think on the level, the Mexican player now looks to MLS and think that's a viable option for them. So it would be naive for us not to venture into that market. We're now, I think we probably have the best recruiting tool now in possible. So in our house, and we'll definitely lean on Héctor to help us with that. But we're excited about trying to tap into that market.
And just quickly, perhaps this is a question for Paulo as well, but I mean, Héctor, not only is he just a very good player, he's the captain of his national team. And so he's captain material, obviously, as soon as he steps in the Houston facility. Is that part of the evolution of this team and the sort of player that you're bringing in?
Yeah, I think leadership is I would go there. I don't know about the captaincy. That's up to Paulo. That's his choice. And what he does with that. We have a great leader in Tim Parker right now as our captain. But I think for us is leadership. And as I'd mentioned earlier, when you watch him with Atletico Madrid, as I did the last couple of weeks, and obviously seen him lots of times in the national team, but the way he leads on the field, he's not the captain at Atletico Madrid, but he's the leader. He's the guy they rally behind when he's on the field. And it's the little things that he does around there where there's a young player, he's patting him in the back when it's an older guy that needs kind of a kick up the rear. He's not afraid to do it, and that's the type of accountability that we need, and kind of pushing and striving for excellence is what we need in this building, and I think we're slowly getting there.
Thank you. Congrats on the signing.
Thank you.
Up next, we'll go with Alex. Alex, go ahead.
Great. First of all, Pat, can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you fine, Alex.
Pat, good to see you again, and congratulations. It appears Héctor meets all the criteria for the perfect player in his experience, in his marketability. Are all these factors that you take into consideration as a team when you're searching out players like Héctor?
Yeah, we take that into account with every player. I think you want to get first and foremost, you want to get a good player. That's number one. You want a player that's needed in a position in need. And then lastly, and I think what you really look for is a cultural fit. Do they fit? Are they going to fit into the culture that we're trying to build here? Are they a team player? Are they a guy that's going to fit into Paulo's style of play? Are they going to push the guys around them and try to make this a better group? I think those are kind of all the factors that go into it. And yes, clearly Héctor ticks almost all of those boxes, if not all of them. I would say tick. You just kind of kicks them off the shelf. So we're pretty excited to have them in that sense. But yeah, I think with every signing and probably every club, I don't think this is rocket science. I think every club that's what you're shooting for. And clearly when you sign players, and I'll take Héctor's side, in any signing is you try to hit as many of those as you possibly can. And sometimes you have a perception of what that player is going to be, and when they come in, they don't make it. So unfortunately, that's the reality of our business, and you just try to make sure you get more right than you do wrong, and that's what we're trying to do here. But I think when you have a player Héctor's level, I think it's pretty easy to get that one right.
Pat, congratulations, and as Felipe alluded to earlier, it's about time, right? It's been like a no-brainer. I know you mentioned that 15 years ago the resources weren't there, but I think the message is loud and clear that this marriage is almost perfect.
I think so. I think so, and hopefully when Héctor has the opportunity to speak to everyone, he'll say the same. I know certainly from getting the opportunity to get to know him, he and his family are extremely excited to come to Houston. They're extremely excited about the project, and they want to turn this thing around. He wants to be part of something where he is kind of a pioneer, so to speak, and he wants to be a champion for Houston. He wants to put the badge on, and he wants to stand up for the people in Houston and be kind of an icon and a sporting hero, and he's willing to take that. I mean, that's big responsibility, but he's excited about the challenge.
And finally, Pat, I won't monopolize. Talk to us quickly about the process. I'm sure it had its ups and downs, its moments of doubt, but you were able to bring it together. Again, was there a point where maybe it wouldn't happen, or from the beginning was it meant to be?
No, I think right from the get-go, we had initial conversations. Once we got the go-ahead to speak to him, we had initial conversations, and right away, I think we were both interviewing each other, really, and each kind of step of the way, I think it went really well. Like I said, when Hector gets here, I'll be able to speak to that. But all of us were involved, and that's one thing. Alex, you've been around us a little bit. That we are about the club. Paula was involved in this process. Asher Mendelson was involved in this process. Nick Koba, and then Ted Siegel, for example, spoke to him as well. So I think we believe in this club. We believe in this city. And we believe that we can get better and become competitive and become a championship team again. So Hector jumped on board, and he believes that as well.
Well, Pat, thank you for your time, sir, and congratulations. Great game.
Thank you.
Up next, we'll go with Mark. Mark, go ahead.
Hey, Pat, if you could help me here, I'm part of the layman. I don't always really understand quite what's going on here, but you've signed a player of very large caliber. In the lay terms, how big a deal is this for those who don't understand what the Dynamo have gone and done?
Well, I mean, it's the biggest signing in our club history, and I don't think there's anyone that's close. With all due respect to Sebastian Ferreira, who was probably just up there just recently, I think for us this was it's a turning point. I think in the franchise. I think it's we put a marker down in the professional sports scene here, and we believe that this is going to transform our organization again and put us back at the top and make us compete for championships. And that's what we're trying to do. He's a guy that's won everywhere he's played, whether it's with the national team, Porto, Madrid. He's a fantastic player, a great human being, a guy that ticks every single box that I've talked about before. So for us, Mark, this is a massive signing for us.
And for the layman, why is this so big? Why is he so important?
I mean, we can kind of use the sports analogies, which I don't like using, to be honest, even though I am a hockey fan. But it's a little bit, I guess, if you want to say, like signing a Wayne Gretzky to a certain extent. Maybe not from a scoring standpoint, but certainly from a notoriety standpoint. In the soccer community, he's very well known. You look in our league, and I think there are marquee signings that we've had. The David Beckham. Blanco is one that was in Chicago, is a big one, but there's not a ton that come to the tip of your tongue in terms of signings for a community that have a really good fit. I think this was a perfect fit for him in Houston, in our city, and I think at the timing for our club, he's got an opportunity here to really help us build what we want to build and help us get over the line and become a contender again.
Pat, what does this say about can you hear me okay?
Yep.
What does this say about what Ted is doing as far as his regime, making a move like this on his watch?
Yeah, a lot. And I think the one thing is we sat down with Ted and said, here's the spend we're looking for. We put another one of these presentations together and said, here's what we're looking for, of which he approved it. This opportunity literally came up about a week later, and I had to go knocking on the door and saying, listen, I might need a little bit more than we agreed to. But at the same token, he didn't even hesitate. He knew who Hector was first and foremost, which is great. I don't know if every owner would know who these players are. And right away, he knew this could be a great opportunity for our club and for the city. So we're very fortunate that Ted is giving us this opportunity to go after a player of this caliber. So if it wasn't for Ted at this point, I don't know if this would have got over the line. But it's a fantastic opportunity for everybody.
Thanks for putting up with me, Pat. Appreciate you.
No problem, Mike.
So Chuck on there. Chuck, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm good. My question was actually already answered.
Sounds good. Up next, we'll go with Caesar. Caesar, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Houston. I haven't had a chance to talk to you yet, but just piggybacking off of what they were asking you right now, how much of a soccer fan would you say Ted is, and how much does that come into play when you try to sell him on getting high caliber players like Héctor?
Yeah, I mean, the fortunate thing is he likes watching soccer. He's been a soccer fan most of his life, so he's played a little bit when he was younger. His sport, though, I believe, was tennis, not soccer, but he's aware of what's on in the global scene, and he's also interested in that. So for me, he's an owner, the type of owner where he wants to know what we're up to, what we're thinking. And I wouldn't say he's certainly not a guy that's going to say yes or no, in the sense that he trusts myself and Asher and Paulo to make the decisions to move this club forward. But he likes to be informed, and he likes to be educated about what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it. He asks great questions, as a lot of owners do. So it's really enjoyable for me. It's been a fantastic experience since I hit the ground here in November. So I feel very fortunate to have this kind of support from an owner.
Were there any hesitations from Héctor's team in regard to signing the contract, maybe perhaps even the length of the contract itself, or were the major hiccups that you guys had?
You'd have to ask them, but there were no real hiccups. I'll be honest, it was probably one of the smoothest contracts in my relatively short career. In the last 3.5 years that I've been doing this, is probably one of the easier contracts that I've ever dealt with. And a lot of that, I think, goes to Héctor and his character. He's a man of his word, and when he said, "Listen, this is what it's going to take," and his agent was the same. So this is where we're at, and what we're talking about, and we made a decision that we were comfortable with that, and we reached an agreement pretty quickly.
Also, I have to address this because we got phone calls about it today, and also on social media, obviously fans are going wild with Héctor Herrera signing. There's also the rumor of talks with Diego Lainez as well. Can you tell us anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I don't want to talk about players that are in contract with other team. Technically, I guess so is Héctor, but he's also free in the summer. But so I don't want to talk about players on other teams. But what I would say is it's a market. We talked about this a little bit earlier. We have the best recruiting tool, I think, in the league right now for the Mexican player. So that we use Héctor to try to help us recruit players. Of course we would. So, but at this stage, I'm not going to comment on a player that's under contract with someone else.
And last but not least, Pat, what would you say is the highest selling point for European players to entice them to jump over to MLS, even if they're at their prime?
Yeah, I think the league's growing. It's a lot better. You talked to, and I forget his name, and I should remember. It's the CEO of the Man City Group. Just came out, I think, in the Athletic, and Felipe, you could probably jump in on this one, but they came out and talked about how they feel MLS in the next 5 years is going to be one of the top leagues in the world. I think the investment from our ownership groups throughout the league, kind of the harmony we have between the players and the ownership group and the league and Don Garber's leadership, I think this league is moving forward and flying. So I think for a lot of European players, a lot of South American players, they look at this as no longer maybe a stepping stone, but also kind of a league of choice. And that's what we're trying to get to, and that's what we're building for.
Thank you, Pat.
Yep, no problem.
Up next, we'll go with Jesus. Go ahead, Jesus.
Hey, Pat. Out of the long list of players that you wanted to bring to Houston, where was Héctor on that list?
We have a pretty extensive list. So he was on there, but it's a pretty extensive list. So I mean, we're fortunate. I think the big one, and I talked about this earlier when I took the job, is the first step for us was to try to get the coach hired and make sure Paulo was on board, and then let Paulo dictate how he wants to play, what he wants to play, what type of profile he wants in positions of what we all feel were a position of need, and he got very specific in the type of profile that he was looking for, and at that stage, that narrows that list down quite substantially. But and then the big one, I think, is opportunity. The timing for a lot of these deals, especially the big ones like this, is timing. The player is ready to go take on another challenge. The club is ready to take on a player of that caliber, that level. And for us, it aligned at the perfect time, and has been well, like I said before, very smooth and just a really nice process, enjoyable process all along.
Was there a particular aspect of the famous PowerPoint presentation that stood out to Héctor?
I didn't show him all that. He fall asleep through half of it. No, I think for him it was, and you know, they were part of it was them recruiting us. You know, they looked at Houston and said, this is a market that has never had a Mexican player come to. He knows he knows the city's population. He knows the Hispanic population here. And he also knows where the club is at currently and where they want to go. And I think for him, the biggest piece, I think from the outside in, he said, okay, that would be a nice place to play. Like that kind of fits everything that I'm looking for. But I think for him was more about like, okay, who's leading this group? You know, what's the coaching like? Does it fit my style? Is this a place where do I believe in this project? And I think for him, it was probably less to do with PowerPoints and saying, hey, this is where we want to go and how we're going to get there. I think for him was more just about fit and feel. Did he feel a connection to Paulo? Did he feel a connection to Ted? Did he feel a connection to Asher Mendelson? Did he feel a connection to myself? And once we got there, then at that stage, he goes, listen, these guys are doing the right thing here, and I believe in them as much as they believe in me, and let's get this done.
How much impact, and it's hard to gauge because he's not here yet, but how much impact will Héctor have on this club outside of the pitch? And during your conversations with Héctor, was that subject approachable? Like, hey, we want you to be out there with the community as...
No, 100%, 100%. Listen, I think anytime somebody, any club in this league goes out and spends this sort of money on a player, they're hoping for not only on the field to transform the team and, you know, play at the level that they're able to play at and raise the level of the rest of the group, which we know Héctor will. You want them to be able to be marketable. You want them to be a part of the community. You want them to be a part of the city. And Héctor has embraced that from day one and said this is something he's looking forward to. And I think when you've seen him in press conferences with Atleti, when you look at him in Porto, he's always been very comfortable in front of a camera and selling himself and in a good way and being, you know, positive about the club. And it's something he said he would love to do and love to be a part of. So that makes it that much easier in terms of you know, trying to get pen to paper.
Great. Thanks a lot, Pat.
No problem.
You saw Victor on there. Victor, go ahead.
Hey, Pat. Obviously, Héctor didn't see MLS or the Houston Dynamo as a detriment, you know, place where he can play prior to the World Cup. What can you share about that topic in your talks with him last week? Yeah, well, I think, you know, part of this is him and his character. I mean, there's a reason he's at Atletico and the reason he's done so well. And he's, you know, last week he played 3 games in 8 days and played 90 minutes in each game, including a Champions League quarterfinal, of which I mentioned to someone else. I don't know if I mentioned on this call, but he covered 11.5 kilometers. It covered the most distance of any player in that game. So I don't think, like, for him, he knows he's going to push himself no matter what league he's in. So he's not worried about fitness level, that sort of thing. I think he also knows this league is growing, and he's been following it very closely, and he's chosen us. So I don't think that's a problem for him. But the one thing I'm going to pivot here a little bit if I haven't already. But the one thing I wanted to say about him and what he is he you know, he doesn't want to comment now, and that's because he wants to focus fully on Atletico Madrid. You have to respect a guy that is like, I am all in here in Madrid, and when I come to Houston, I'll be all in on Houston. And I don't think we'd want it any other way. It's one of the reasons that attracted us to him, is that when he's a fantastic teammate and a guy that will give his heart and soul to any club that he's with, and we're excited that he'll be able to put our jersey on in July. I think a player of his caliber, where do you believe this puts Houston? Does this elevate the club to playoff contender, championship contender? Where do you rank him?
I mean, our goal from day one, we got together the very first day of training camp. We had the staff, everybody, all the players together, and our goal is to make the playoffs this year. I know it's a big jump. Everyone will say, oh, well, it's such a big jump from where you were last year. Yes, it is. But we also know it's going to be difficult. We don't expect to waltz in there and you know, make the playoffs in week 2. So we still have a lot of work to do. We have a long way to go. But our belief, everything we do every single day, is to try to make the playoffs this season.
And obviously, he doesn't arrive until July. Do you feel the team still has some pressing needs in the short term?
Yeah, we have. We have some needs. We're going to try to improve our club. We've made some that we want to be able to have a chance to see how these guys perform and how they gel and get a real good feel for our group. Some players, I'm sure, that may have been on the outs in the last few years and now get an opportunity to play will shine under Paulo's leadership, and vice versa. Some guys that had really good seasons in the past may not. So we need to understand our group, which guys are going to be successful in the way, the style that Paulo wants to play. But we have work in front of us, and we're going to try to also help Paulo by making sure that we have the strongest squad possible.
We're going to wrap up here shortly. We'll keep going with Ariel. Ariel, go ahead. We'll keep going with Rodrigo. Rodrigo, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, Pat. This is Rodrigo Tovar from Fox Sports Mexico. A quick question. We all are talking about the arrival of Héctor next summer, but my question is there any clause that, any part of the contract that can bring down the arrival of Héctor?
Is there any part in the contract? No, there's no part in the contract, no.
Okay, I mean healthy issues or something like that.
No, not really. I mean, yes, if a player was injured, we'd have to cross that bridge when it comes to it, but that would obviously be a bit of a concern. So.
Okay, thank you very much.